Hello humans, it's just Martine, and I'm visiting home right now, so let's try to read as many of my own books as possible. For the majority of the year, I live in my own apartment in South Florida, but most of my books live in my family home because my studio apartment is not big enough for all of them. So they live here. I am separated from them most of the time. I just get to bring like 2 boxes of them with me to school. If you're curious how I pick which books I bring to school, check out this video right here. But for the next 2 weeks, I'm visiting home, so I thought I'd do 2 weekly reading vlogs where I try to read as many of my own physical books as possible while they are all here with me. Unfortunately, I don't think the number of books that I read will be particularly impressive in these vlogs because I have so many other books that I need to read for other videos during this time period that are not going to count for this video, either because they are not owned books or they're ebooks or they're just for a different video. So there are a couple physical books that I will be reading that won't make it into this vlog because they are for TBR crime, for instance. But I'll do the best that I can. I would show you my book situation, but it's kind of a disaster. There's one shelf and then a bunch of boxes/bins that have books. I was thinking about it yesterday, and I think I'm going to start with a nonfiction book because I do have an entire bin of nonfiction books for some reason, and so reading at least one would feel good. I'm going to be reading Finding Contentment When Momentary Happiness Just Isn't Enough by Neil Clark Warren. I'm excited about this. A little self-helpy situation. There are not too many words on each page, and I'm not reading a nonfiction for anything else right now, so that's honestly one of the hard parts, is finding a book that doesn't cross over with another book of the same genre that I'm reading right now. Like, if I'm reading a romance for TBR Crime, I don't necessarily want to be reading another romance for this video. So balancing it all out is kind of hectic, but I did want to work on this while I'm home because I recently counted my own books for something else, and it's not pretty. Right, we're just going to make a dent in it. I'm going to start with this. It's Monday. We'll see how much I can get done by the end of Sunday. It is my only week off of work completely, but it's also a pretty busy week hanging out with friends, hanging out with family, doctor's appointments, etc. And again, reading for all of the other things I need to read for. So, wish me luck! I have a lot to catch you up on because it's Friday and it's been quite a week. I've only finished one book for this. I did read Finding Contentment, and unfortunately I gave it 2.5 stars. The basic premise of this book is if you want to find enduring contentment in your life instead of fleeting happiness, then you have to be your authentic self. I don't disagree with that message. I feel like Brené Brown handled that a lot better in Daring Greatly. This said a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. Didn't have any scientific backing, even though it's written by a psychologist, and lacked a lot of practical information. So overall, it was just like, I can get this message, but way better other places. So 2.5 stars it is. I'll be unhauling this book, and it will be leaving my shelves. I also have started my next read, which is Infinite Stars Dark Frontiers. It's an anthology of sci-fi stories, specifically space opera stories. It's a space opera anthology. I've read 3 of the stories. I'm definitely not going to finish this book in this video, but I'm making progress on it, so hopefully in the next video I will be able to finish it. I say having only read 3 stories. That's okay. I've read 1 story that's connected to a series I haven't read yet. I've read 1 story that's like a classic short story, and then I've read the Becky Chambers short story. So far, I've enjoyed everything that I've read in this collection. I really loved the Becky Chambers story. I think it's such a good lesson and example for people about what it feels like when the identity that society has thrust upon you is not in line with the identity that you actually have, and that the way you feel inside and the way other people expect you to be inside are like two different things, and how stressful it can be when they are out of alignment. I just thought it was kind of a brilliant allegory and explanation, and obviously I always love Becky Chambers' writing, so I was happy about that. But I've got a lot more stories to get through in this, so you'll be hearing about this more. But here's where the embarrassing confessions begin. So, I went to the Dollar Tree the other day with my mom, and she treated me to some books. Thanks, Mom. I walked up to her with a stack and I said, oops, because right in front of me I have 6 books, fresh from the Dollar Tree. And we got there just in time because apparently later this week it could even be done by now. I don't know. They are changing the prices for the books from $125 to $150, which is still an incredible value for brand new books, but still, we got in before the increase. So I'll tell you about these 6 books in the order that I have them in front of me. The first is a mystery thriller called The Interpreter by Brooke Robinson, and basically the main character is an interpreter. So when somebody speaks a language that the police don't, and they don't have a language in common, she'll go in and interpret their interactions. And apparently she lies about her interpretation for some reason. So that's interesting to me. Then I got Confessions of the Other Sister, which is basically just a story about sisterhood because it's about these 2 sisters. They're very different, but their lives seem to both be spiraling, and they're thrown together, and it seems like a good time. I love reading about sisterhood as a person who's very close to her sister myself. Then I got Prince in Disguise, which I think is a YA, but I'm not positive. It's about this girl whose sister wins the hand of a laird-to-be, a Scottish laird-to-be, in a reality television show, and so they're whisked off to Scotland to film the lead up to the wedding, and things go from there. So it's like reality television stuff. I don't know. It seemed interesting and cute. And then I have The Family, which seems to be about these 2 best friends who have a weird family situation. They live in the shadow of their father's unspoken community, the family with a capital F. So I don't know if there's something sinister there going on. It's also unclear, like, are they sisters or are they friends? Or are they sisters who are also friends? I don't know. That's all I know. But the capital F family, for some reason, that intrigued me. And then I have All the Little Hopes, which I think is a historical fiction book set in North Carolina that involves a mystery of some kind. It might not be historical fiction. Maybe it's like a dual timeline because we're following characters maybe in the present, but then we're also following something involved in World War II. I don't know. It's a little unclear. It just looked very intriguing to me. I love the spine of it. And I don't know, I'm kind of a sucker. And then I got If You, Then Me, which looks so cute and pretty. Again, I think this might be YA based on like the size of the text, but also it's unclear. And it's about these tech prodigies. Yeah, it's a romance book about tech prodigies. Whatever seemed fun. And these 2 people who I think meet online. Anyway, it seemed cute. So I got those 6 books, and I thought that would be the worst damage that I did while I was here. And I was wrong. Tonight, I am supposed to go to the used bookstore, and maybe I will get a book there. So we might be adding that to the stack. But then it got a little crazy. We have a family friend whose mom, who is also a family friend, is getting rid of a lot of her physical books because she can't hold them anymore. She's switching to an e-reader. She's a huge mystery thriller fan and has quite the collection. And we have inherited at least a good portion of this library of hers. So I have 4 new boxes of books right here. These 4 white ones. Spread out on my bed earlier, they looked like this. And from that, I have acquired 71 new books. Now, I'm obviously sharing these books with the rest of my family, but they are living in my room with my other unread books. So that's the story of how I tried to film a vlog where I was reading down my own TBR and somehow I acquired 77 more instead. Like I said to my mom at the Dollar Tree, oops. I pinky promise this is the last book I'll haul in this video. But it was always the plan yesterday to go to the used bookstore and get a book, because the used bookstore that we usually go to here, my mom is like a patron there, and so we get like $5 off a book once a month, and she hadn't redeemed her one for August yet, so we were like, let's go do that. And I ended up picking A Little Life, because I've obviously heard such incredible things about it. I don't know anything about what it's about except trauma. I don't know. I've heard it's very, very sad, but I own it now, so good for me, I guess. I'm not panicking looking at my owned TBR. It's all fun and games, having a good time out here. I feel like, unless I read something really quick, I probably won't finish another book in this vlog, but will at least document me trying. It's officially the weekend now, so there's that. And I have not made any more progress on Infinite Stars Dark Frontiers, but I would like to read at least a couple more of these stories this weekend. Ideally, I would love to get halfway through this so that I only have half of it to read next week, but we will see, because I'm reading a ton of things, a lot of stuff on my Kindle that I have to get to, because what had happened was my July reading really did not go to plan, hence why I had to speed run all of it in the last 2 weeks of the month, and that has left me with August to finish my current round of TBR crime, so that is what I've been focusing on, and I don't think that's a bad thing to focus on. But yeah, I would say my goal this weekend is to read some more of these stories, maybe give you some thoughts on them. If I want to pick a quick book for my shelves, I might do that. Otherwise, we're just kind of hanging out this weekend. I also don't expect to be doing a ton of reading this weekend in general, because all week my sister has been at work and she's home on the weekend, so I actually get to hang out with her. That is the update. I did haul another book. I'm not going to make a habit of it, but this week is what it is. Right? Like, this is not going to happen in next week's vlog. I have to believe that. Happy Sunday from my terribly lit and shadowy room. Things are going well. Obviously, the main reading I've been doing for this has been Infinite Stars Dark Frontier. Plural, frontiers, plural. And I've been making progress on these short stories, or trying to. Yesterday, I read 3 of them. I read the one by Orson Scott Card. I read the one by George R.R. Martin. Really enjoyed that one. So I might need to check out some of his space opera stuff, because I've read all of Game of Thrones. Then I read one about Skipjack. I think that's related to just like one other story, but that was good. I read the one by Orson Scott Card for Ender's Game. And okay, a lot of these stories will give you a note that like, hey, here's where we are in the series at this point, and like, this is a good place to jump in, or something like that. The Ender's Game story did peeve me a little, because it is absolutely not ideal for jumping into the series. It takes place before the 6th book, I think. The 5th book in the original series doesn't take place like chronologically in the same timeline, so the 6th book takes place right after the 4th, so technically this takes place right after the 4th book. Point is, this takes place right after the book that I've most recently read. So fortunate of me for that, because it had huge spoilers for that. But I also think that means it had fairly substantial spoilers for later on in the other series, because the 2 series meet up for book 6 and share a concluding book. So I think this had spoilers for both of them. But I think the spoilers were a lot more explicit for the original Ender's Game saga than they were for the 2nd series. So like, thank goodness I already had read the books that I needed to in that series to understand what was going on and not get those huge spoilers thrust upon me, because I only read that most recent book like a couple months ago. That was annoying, and there was no warning about like where it was in the series or anything. Didn't appreciate that, but it was still a pretty good story. And then I've read, I just think, 1 story today. I'm in the middle of my 2nd. Yeah. And the one that I read this morning, I did not enjoy. It was the one from Lensman, but that's a more like traditional space opera author, Edward E. Smith. But so far, I'm enjoying most of the stories in here, and some of them are even making me curious about picking up more books by certain authors. So that's always exciting, because I feel like if you can like short stories set in their world, then you could definitely enjoy their larger pieces of fiction set in those worlds. I do not believe that I will make it to halfway through this book today, because I'm like a third of the way into the book, and it's a slow read, and I have other things that I need to be making progress on. But we'll see. I'm just going to go slow and steady and enjoy myself. And it is what it is. It is officially Monday, so this vlog is going to come to an end. But I did want to catch you up on how much of Infinite Stars I read yesterday. I read a couple more stories since I talked to you last. I honestly can't remember when I spoke to you last, if I had read Lensman or not. Regardless, I didn't like that one. I'm pretty sure I told you that. And then I read the Confederation story, and I did not like that. And then I read the Kangaroo story, and I really liked that. So I'm going to have to look out for that series in the future, because I really want to give that a try. And then I read Seanan McGuire's story, which was just okay, but it was like not related to a series, so that's fine. And so in total, in this vlog, I managed to get through 10 of the stories in this book, which is not shabby, not exactly where I wanted to be. I think I got just shy of 40% in, but it's something. So as a wrap up of this vlog, for this video, I read one book and 40% of this book. Outside of this video, I managed to read 2 other owned books. That brings my total for the week up to 3 whole read books off of my shelf. Unfortunately, I added 78, so we have a net this week of plus 75, which was not the goal of this video. All we can hope is that this next week will have a better outcome. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Have you ever accidentally exponentially grown your TBR when you meant to be shrinking it? And subscribe for more bookish and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!